Hi guys, hello, and how are you doing? Thank you and welcome to another edition of our weekly conversation on the Audit Gender campaign. Um, just want to welcome you all again, and yeah, today we are having an interesting person in the house, and of course, we will be having this conversation for the next hour, and we'll be discussing how we move from conversation to action, and more importantly, the practical strategies and the practical steps that we need to take in ensuring that we ultimately eliminate gender-based violence and gender inequality on the show. Um, Joining us tonight is our own interesting personality, Miss Valerie. I'll be adding her on right now. I'm just wanting to, yeah, that's the topic. I just want to pin it out there. All right, good, we're good. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining. And yeah, so I'm going to add on Valerie. I suppose you're ready. Yeah, I just sent you a request. Please check it out. Let's go. Interesting. Hi, Valerie. Again,
Again, hello.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing, friends?
I'm all right, hey. And how's work been for you? I mean, you said it was hectic, and yeah, tell me, how's your day been anyway?
Well, it's new work, so I'm working with arts charity, and we basically do art installations and workshops at mental health care units. So it's a exciting job because every day is different.
That's I like.
But Mondays are always hard, especially when you're traveling in the rain.
Oh, is it raining there?
Too much. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that's good. I mean, like here, here right now, it's winter. I mean, we're rounding up winter, but it's not been really easy. Hey, it's winter right now. And, oh, okay, that's good.
I'd rather. I see Suhail. Hello, babe. Okay, okay.
All right. So yeah, we're just gonna dive into the conversation, but let me get on my co-host, Zizi, who I think I see her already. Yeah, I'm gonna just let me bring her on. We have a co-host. Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
We there's a gender balance here. Don't worry. Yeah.
Gender balance. Yeah, I mean today we're talking about serious things,
Mm,
so
yeah.
it's
So
good to have more.
yeah, we're having them, and I'm sure she'll be joining us. And I just sent her an invitation. So quickly, as we delve into the conversation, quickly just give us a brief. Who is Valerie Amani? Valerie Amani, right? How do I pronounce it? Is it Amani or Ama? I don't know. Tell me.
Valerie, Amani.
Amani.
As
Ah,
phonetic, what you see is what you get.
is it Valerie Amani? Okay, that's beautiful. Tell me who,
Yeah,
or tell us who is Valerie Amani?
that's a funny question.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm an artist. I'm an artist, I'm a writer. I am really drawn into by advocacy, and I believe in access to art and art education. You started off in fashion. I was a fashion designer. Lived in Cape Town, Johannesburg, Dar es Salaam, where I'm from. I'm Tanzanian. And very recently just finished my master's at Oxford, and now I'm in London until I can go back home.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's good to know. Good to know you were once in South Africa. We're joining you from South Africa right now. I'm in Johannesburg precisely, and yeah, and I'm sure you know what the weather looks like sometimes when it's winter. And
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
and also it's I mean from your experience in South Africa, it also puts you in a better position to understand the landscape and of the entire terrain on the issue of gender-based violence. I mean, across the world, we will see that South Africa will be ranking as a top, as a highest gender-based violence rated cases, in the world, and it's really not an interesting thing it's not an interesting topic to watch.
Yeah.
To delve in.
No, definitely. I mean, after living in South Africa for 11 years, it's like my second home, and it's very sad, the situation there and how many cases are reported daily.
Exactly. The cases are there, and also looking at it, South Africa is trying. I mean, trying to get onto with the gender equality and the gender balance thing, and trying to encourage more women into the system and what have you. But that has not really been replicated or by other countries in Africa. And so that's the essence of we're having this conversation. If I may just quickly ask, I mean, from your experience, how would you define gender-based violence?
I would first like to start by saying I'm not an expert. I'm saying this as me, as an artist, as a creative person, and my understanding and my personal experience. I personally would define gender-based violence as any discrimination which against women, which leads to physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. And prejudice towards women because of their bodies, because of their gender, that basically marginalizes them from the community, that puts them in danger and of mental health, of death sometimes, and a lot of times just physical abuse.
All right, thank you. I pick from your conversation. I'm just going to finally you joined. I mean, I've been seeing you struggling.
No,
it's telling me you're
it's
unable
the
to.
network has been giving me problems. I'm sorry. Hello, everyone.
You're welcome. That's my co-host Zizi Po. Zizi Po, we have Valerie on the show. I'm sure you've been watching from the background because I saw you were struggling to connect with us. Yeah. So thank you for joining on. We're just gonna continue the conversation. Now, Valerie, I picked from your conversation, from your own opinion of what gender-based violence is. You said it's any discriminatory act or what have you, or whatever it is against women, because of their gender and so on and so forth. If I may ask you, from your definition, you really picked on women. Do you really think gender-based violence actually only does affect women?
No, it affects both gendered and people who don't even identify with genders. I mainly spoke for women because I identify as a woman, and there's a disproportionate number that is affecting women. Definitely men experience it, but as a woman and from my experience, I can more speak to that because with the people I've worked with the artwork I make, it's more towards women, and that's not disregarding men at all.
Okay, no, that's fine. No offense taken. So basically, if I may say, have you experienced, have you experienced a case, maybe as a witness, a case of gender-based violence? Have you witnessed it? Witnessed it, not experienced now. We'll come to the experience later. Have you witnessed a case of gender-based violence?
Definitely.
What emotion did that arouse in you?
Again, when we speak of gender-based violence, that there's a spectrum of possibilities, right? And sometimes it's not physical. I've experienced someone being verbally abused because of their gender. I've experienced someone, especially the situation was basically a girl was refusing to talk to a guy, and she basically was like, please leave me alone. I'm just going to go sit. It was a public place. I just want to go sit at another table. And this guy just kept on following her. And she, at first, she was like trying to be polite, but at the end, there's a limit to how polite you can be. So in the end, she was like, just leave, like, fuck off, leave me alone. And this guy got violent. He started shouting at her, and people had to intervene because he tried to hit her. But he was just basically throwing out slurs, you're a whore, everything that he could think of, just because she basically didn't want to talk to him. So that's happened many times. It's not exactly that situation, but in very different ways. People get upset when they are rejected.
Unfortunately,
I love that okay.
well,
I love
too
that you
bad.
mentioned that, because many people don't believe that when somebody's actually doing that, he's actually abusing you. It's a form of abuse that people don't understand. And we as females, or I would say young ladies, we experience that a lot. When you reject a guy, like, they don't really take rejection so well, and they don't understand that what they're doing after, it's actually a form of abuse.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
too bad for them. I mean, for the guys who get rejected, unfortunately. Uh, I think they need to learn to deal with such emotion, honestly. And I'm not going to.
But how do they deal with it when they're not taught how to deal
Yeah,
with it?
yeah. I mean,
Like,
it's
all the responsibility put on us to be polite and to keep our shit together, because at the end of the day, I'm going to try, even if I don't want to talk to someone, I'm going to try to be nice to them, because I'm afraid this person might be violent towards me for no reason. So now we have to be the ones who are constantly like trying to bend over backwards to accommodate people,
I'm,
because usually physically we can be overpowered.
I like the angle you've thrown the conversation to, and that's very important as well. I mean, the onus should rest on both party. You know, don't start, Rabbi. Don't start, Miss Mafia. Don't start. She's back again. Don't start. So as I was saying,
That's
guys,
a good question.
as I was saying, guys, I said it earlier. I said too bad for the guys who get rejected. So let's proceed. As I was saying. I'm sure I'm sure you can read it between the lines, right? So unfortunately, but then what I'm saying is we have actually left the onus on the ladies, to be the ones who are polite, be the ones who need to educate us, who need to be very nice to us so that we are not, we don't turn to be abusive, which is wrong. And as part of what we're doing as an organization is also to educate both genders. You understand? The theme of the campaign and tell is the other gender, which means that I, as a guy who identifies as a male gender, has to be able to protect myself and defend myself and protect the other gender as well, which is your gender, the female gender. You understand? And so if I have to protect you and defend you, I need to also have a level of understanding, education, and so on and so forth. So it's the honors that we try. It is not a responsibility we're leaving for the women alone, for the ladies alone. It is not something you can deal with alone. I understand it. I mean, come on, I understand. I know what harassment is. You know what I'm saying? And from the explanation you gave, that's where harassment starts there. I mean, end it. There's harassment, and then it gets to a point where they can't deal with the embarrassment on the harassment anymore, and then they then go to, becoming verbally abusive, and might even end up becoming physically abusive as well. And also, let's not forget that name calling is also a form of abuse as well. I mean, we've discussed these things here on the show. Name calling is a form of abuse too, and look at you, and also body shaming as well. These are ways that men and guys deal with rejection, which they should learn to do. And self-esteem does come a lot on that angle. I do get it. I understand. And I didn't want to put you in the corner where I say, have you experienced it? But maybe you have, right? I'm talking to you, Valerie. Maybe you have, and maybe you want to share with us. But I don't. Yeah.
Look at the statistics, boo. I don't even have to tell you. You don't even have to ask me that question. Yeah. The statistics speak for themselves. And I wanted to challenge you because you said that men should protect us, right? So there was a tweet I think the South African government had last year, basically about GBV, and because of COVID, the cases literally skyrocketed, especially in South Africa. But then I think there was a tweet, I'm just misquoting here, but basically it was from the government, and they basically said that, the same thing, that we need to protect our women, we need to whatever. But that's not the issue. You don't need to protect us. Men just need to change. People who are violent just need to change. I think this rhetoric of us being vulnerable, weak, that we need protection. Like if people were not abusive, if people were not predators in the first place, how do we nurture environments that we're not creating predators? How are we nurturing environments that people can actually grow up without being psycho or sociopaths, you know?
Okay, well, I'm just gonna spin that a little. I mean, I like the way you throw that conversation. And you say I love the way the conversation is going. That is why this always is never. Yeah, this is never an interview. It's always a conversation. It's two-way. You know, we always have this conversation. And a lot of people, when they want to come on the show, they're worried like, am I gonna be interviewed? No, we're having a conversation. You know, and that's the beauty of this live we do every Monday. Now, the truth is, from our understanding and from what we have picked from the conversation we've been having throughout the year on this very issue, we've gotten to realize that gender-based violence actually is always not melted by a gender A on gender B, right? Sometimes gender A can abuse gender A, you know, either through body shaming or whatever, and so on and so forth. So now let me bring the analogy. Let me drive it home. You, Valerie, as one who identifies with the female gender, can have somebody who also identifies with the female gender abusing you somehow, somewhere, right? And so if we start a campaign and say, you know what, men should defend women, right? It's not necessarily saying that men should defend women against men, all right? We're saying that men should not learn to keep quiet when any form of abuse is going on anywhere around them. And the onus also rests. And the reason why we are not emphasizing on the women is because it comes naturally from the women to just defend themselves. You know, it comes naturally. A woman walking down the road, see another woman being abused, there's this emotion that it arouses in them that, you know, they just wish they could do something. You understand? They just wish they could do something to help these women, you know? And even when a woman, I mean, I'm telling you from practical experience, when a woman sees a man being abused, this emotion that arouses, I wish I could help this man. You understand? So it's normal. But for men, most men, when they see a woman being abused on the road, they just look at them like, this people are misbehaving again, and they walk past, you know? So that is why we need to give more education, not ignoring the women, more education on the men to understand that the more you stand up and protect others around you, the safer you are, you know? Because if I stand up and speak up for you today, tomorrow I don't know if I'll be in danger. You have to speak up for me as well. You understand? And so that's why we talk about the older gender. I'm not gonna say, well, she's a girl. Girls are always abusive. Let her, she deserves it. You know, well, that's her problem. She runs her mouth too much. Now she gets what she deserves. You get what I'm saying now? So is that thing of, no, you guys may have a disagreement, you guys may have a misunderstanding, but you mustn't cross this line. And I'm not going to sit here and watch that happen, because we know that if I was in that position, this lady will also speak up for me. I mean, how about that?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Or a statement?
It's a statement, and then I'm ending it with a question. Oh, it's an open-ended statement, right? I'm ending with a question, with a question saying that, you know, from the angle that you picked it from, don't you think that if we approach it from this wholesome angle, that it will really, really create a safer space for everyone, male and female? Do you know there are a lot of male who are out there really scared for their life just because of, as a result of abuse?
Yeah. And non-binary, I mean, we also need to remember the non-binary individuals who don't identify as any gender. And I mean, I think what you're saying goes into community care and humanity in general. Like, unfortunately, we live in a time where empathy is becoming more and more rare. So if I see someone being attacked on the street, I may want to help them, but sometimes economically speaking or just physically speaking, you're incapable of. And even if I'm a woman or a man or a non-binary person and I'm experiencing violence, as you said, some people have that strength to speak, and we need to remember that there's a lot involved in speaking out, and there's a lot involved in fighting back. There are people who are mentally ill, who are not able to express themselves. There are people who are scared, who are economically dependent on their abuser, who are afraid that if they leave them, they're not going to be able to survive. So speaking out is also in itself, it's an act of resistance, but it's also an act, it comes from at least you have a security. We need to establish secure spaces for people to be able to speak out. We need to also, some people don't even know they're being abused, you know? being raised in a household and you've been seeing a person in your household abused for years, it becomes normal. You normalize these things. So even educating people, as you said, sometimes like verbal abuse is abuse, or someone trying to hit on you sexually all the time. Some people are not aware these are different kinds of abuses or violence. So I don't know if I answered your question,
Yeah,
or
you
I
did.
also just continued the train of thought.
You did answer it.
But
You did answer it, and you did very well. And I must say that, I mean, those are the things that we need to start pointing out, educating people, and getting make people understand that, you know what, at every point, when you first of all, we need to understand what abuse is. And you actually just went to the other point of our conversation, where I was going to ask what are the ways we can prevent it. And you raised one of the point there, valid point. Some people don't know that they're being abused. Some people don't know that they're being abused. And some people are being abused, they are tolerating it, they're never willing to speak out because they are dependent. It could be financially, it could be, they are dependent from either one or two angles, And these are the things that we need to, approach. And because we're talking about strategies that we can adopt, to eradicate these things, I mean, these are the points you've really validly I highlighted there. I don't know if Zizipo has anything to add, but just before I bring her on, I want to throw this other question to you. From now, you said you're working somewhere in the UK. You just mentioned the organization and so on, and I believe maybe that's not your first job. I mean, all your life, right? Have you ever found yourself in a space where you have actually experienced a case of gender inequality?
definitely, yes. I mean, working in the art industry in Dar es Salaam, the majority of visual artists there are male. And again, I don't really want to make this a man-female thing, but it just happened to be I was working in a space where there were 90% men there. And I was working as a visual arts manager. And we have problems everywhere where you're trying. It was an NGO, and there were subsidized studio spaces, and some artists just decide not to pay sometimes. And I had the fun job of having to remind people sometimes to pay. And I had a man basically, first of all, swear at me because I was younger than him. We have another issue in our cultures where if a person is older than you, then they are God. But anyway, so first he abused me because I was younger than him, and he pushed me out of the studio, and he refused to speak to me because I'm a woman. The same man a few weeks earlier had also hit on me when he was drunk at one of our events. So things like this happen in work environments. And a lot of people don't report it. I'd reported him, and I got 2 other male artists come to me like, why did you report him? Why didn't you just talk to him nicely? I'm like, why would I talk to someone nicely when they didn't give me the same respect or the same consideration, So again, like, I was expected to be more lenient, more forgiving just because I'm younger or something like that. So I think it's very difficult in work environments, but I think it's important to set boundaries from the very beginning, especially if you are a young woman, because young women were often looked at, oh, she's young, and of course you see my hair, you're like, this girl is not serious or whatever. Like, they judge you from your appearance straight away, and you don't even know why I'm here and what work I came to do. So I think setting boundaries and just being confident in yourself, and also reporting cases, not being afraid to report, because at the end of the day, your workplace is supposed to protect you. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right.
And just to add on the part of being open, and also like in the working place, I work in a male-dominated department, which is South African Police Service. And most of the time, as females, we're portrayed as people that cannot actually hold a gun or do anything that is more physical. So we are always shifted to the admin part of it. And also how you wear, they will like, oh, okay, you're wearing like it's idols. This is not idols. This is police. People should respect you. And it doesn't even have anything to do how you wear and how you do your work. Like, you're perfectly doing your work and you're meeting the deadlines, but they always have that one thing. But one thing I would say is that sit down with them. I do that. I'm the youngest one. I have people that are the same age with my mother. I work with them. But I tell them that at work, there's no child. And I'm not your child. I'll respect you. And I expect the same respect, regardless of my gender or my age. So I set those grounds at a very early stage so that we will not have a confusion when we're going far as to, okay, I do this and you do that. I don't take commands from anyone. I may be young, I may be a female, I may be in a department that is male dominated, but I know why I'm there and what I'm supposed to do at what time. So I think it is good to just set boundaries and just be clear at the first end. They shouldn't get confused that you don't know your work just because you are this person or you are this young or you're female or anything.
All right, now I'm gonna throw this question to the both of you. I love this conversation already. I'm loving it already. You know, let me throw this question. I mean, both of you have actually talked about boundaries. And hey, Pasha, I didn't forget your question. Hey, I just hope I answered it because I see you're not texting anymore. It's unlike you. I answered your question, right? I said, too bad, right? That's what I said. So read between the lines. Now, let me quickly move on to the conversation. Both of you have talked about setting boundaries, you know, and especially the emphasis you laid on Zizipo, setting boundaries and making it clear and say, you know, this is what I won't tolerate and what have you. Some people who should I say don't? Or well, okay, let's for this benefit of doubt, right? For the sake of being lenient on them, who don't understand what communication is, might say you're being rude, you're being disrespectful, you know. How do you talk to people like that, you know? But that's you trying to make it clear and say, you know what, I respect you a lot. I respect you a lot. If maybe the respect I have for you requires me to kneel, I will. But if it doesn't, I won't. But I respect you a lot, right? But there are certain things I just won't tolerate from you or anybody, right? But then, how do you then explain, or how do you play from the angle where your boundaries or you defining your boundaries doesn't come off as, okay, now, how do we differentiate between being rude, disrespectful, irresponsible, and just setting boundaries?
I think it has to do with an approach, how you say it.
Okay.
It's not always a fight or a battle that, okay, the one who has the higher voice is supposed to win or anything. It's how you say it that, you know what, I'm not comfortable with the comment that you've made. Yes, I understand I'm a female, I may be young, you've got your own views about the work that you're doing, but I just don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's how you put it.
Valerie, do you agree?
No, I completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone has made up their mind and they choose to be offended, they will be offended no matter what you say. But I think what Zizipo said is completely correct. You just have to speak to them properly. If they still feel like you're being disrespectful, tell them that was not my intention. Basi, move on. Like, there's not much that you can do. I think communication, again, not trying to sweeten it or not trying to talk in metaphors or euphemisms. I think direct language is always best. As she said, I do not like this. Please could you not repeat this action again? As clear as possible.
All right.
Yeah.
Communicating and and making it clear. Just a quick one. This is to you, Valerie, and it's way off the topic. I'm just speaking from something you said earlier. 11 years in South Africa. What language do you know how to speak? Which South African language can you speak?
It has to be Zulu.
Dumelang.
Oh, okay, that's Zulu.
You're putting me on the spot, but I have other talents. Languages are not one of them. No, actually, you shouldn't blame me. You should blame my South African friends. Why did they not teach me anything?
Did you learn? Did you decide to? Did you even approach them?
Milan.
Were you open? Oh, you did Milan. I mean, she was thinking you were going to say San Bernardino. I'm kidding.
Of course, but I didn't want to say the most obvious thing.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. So you lived in Cape Town, Joburg, for this period of time. I mean, that should give you a good ground on some of these languages. But that's good. Well, I'm still learning, so let's not talk about how. Don't ask me. It's not. I'm not. This is not.
I can hear. Speaking and hearing are two different things. If someone is speaking, at least I can hear a little bit of Swana here. A little. Kosa is the one that just defeated me. I'm sorry. I'm defeated by Kosa. I'm sorry.
Wait. This is for your Kosa, ne?
Yeah.
She's reporting
Okay.
you. She's reporting you now.
Ndingumxhosa ndiyathetha.
Okay. Okay.
No, yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting, guys. We're quickly moving on now. I mean, we've talked about some of these things, happening in the workplace and so on, and we wanted to actually discuss more about the strategies that we can adopt. I mean, practical strategies, and one of the strategies that, I mean, from what you've picked, from what you've mentioned, I mean, the rather implicit ones, I would say you have talked about also educating these people, and but then on a larger scale, right? And I'm saying on larger scale, I'm saying this because I expect that we answer it to that point, because we need to start from the grassroots, right? But how do we really apply these strategies? We're saying educate these people. We're not going to start. I'm going to make a lighter joke. You lived in South Africa for 11 years. Of all the education, you don't even know how to say, this is a hotel how one thing.
Prince, don't try me right now. Don't try me.
Okay, well, jokes aside, but I'm saying this education we're talking about, I mean, we just don't stand on the street and start telling people what to do and what not to do. Of course, it's a way we can maybe, go out and, public campaigns and what have you. But you get my point. This education we're talking about, we just don't call our friends randomly and say, hey, guy, hey, girl, sit down, we need to talk on the phone and those could happen, but how do we really apply these strategies? Let's start with education. How do we really drive this education home? That in the next 20 years, 25 years, in the next 15 years, we won't be having this conversation again in this same context. You understand? We won't be saying, oh, let's educate people, let's educate. We'll be sure that the generation coming after us, those who will be 20, 15, 25 years at that time, they already understand how these things work. So they are working on different dynamics right now. How do we really drive this conversation? Valerie?
Well, this is a very big question. And honestly, all I can say is where does education start, right? Education is what people have access to. People have access to their families. So how do we make how do we go back home and talk about these things with our families? And our families don't end with us. We have our cousins, we have our nieces, we have our cousins, we have a large breadth of families. How do we talk about these things within our own families and take away the taboos? Even things like radio media, not everyone has access to Instagram or internet. Some people have, their radios they listen to. I don't know. Now I don't even know the station. The only one that came to my mind is 702, but I didn't even used to listen to 702 anyway. But how do we make education accessible? Because education is not only about going to school. Education is about what are people talking about on the streets. Education can be in magazines and pamphlets. There was a project in Tanzania a few years ago called Girl Effect, and the code that you use for star 150 for checking balance, they had a service that basically it was free. If you had a simple phone, even brick phone, you could call this number and it would educate you. It would ask you, they'll have different stories. So it was said a free storytelling thing. Every week they'll have one about pregnancy, about abuse, but they'll put it in two teenage girls talking. So a lot of young girls were listening to this thing for free, that if they just had access to any kind of phone, they could educate themselves on how to get for help, how to see signs of abuse. So things like this, we can start thinking about how to make these things more accessible. But again, at the end of the day, I think people learn the most from their home environments. And Yeah, I mean, those are the ideas I have now about education in particular. Let's see, Zizipo, if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, the very same one that I always add is that let's involve those people that are not involved. I was listening to another show. I think it was on 161 Fetjo. Yes, it says Blackish. So the topic was men are trash, and many guys that were there, they were like, nope, 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 nope. I'm not trash. I've never abused a woman. I've never done anything that has to do with abuse. So this woman was like, no, you can't say you've never abused. The mere fact that you've never said no to somebody who was doing that, you are equal to that. The mere fact that you've never like stopped your friend from doing something that was abusive to a woman, then you are equally to that person. So what I would say is that let's involve those people that are not part of it. The mere fact that you're not a victim now, because it could be you're not a victim now, and we don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. So let's all stand up. Let's all stand up and say no to whatever that is wrong, even if it's not happening to you personally or to somebody that you know. Because we only wake up when we see things happening to our celebrities or to people that we know. So let's just say to no to anything that is wrong, and that includes GBV.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, yeah, interesting. Just a quick clarity. You mentioned this thing about this USSD code and people dialing. Was that in Tanzania?
It's in Tanzania. It was with a company called, it's a charity called Girl Effect. And they launched a project called Tujibebe, which covered the USSD code. And they were trying to get to the economically most vulnerable people, and just people who don't have access to the internet.
Yeah.
But as Isipo said, like, get the people who are not involved. Like, how do we get everyone involved?
Thank you.
It's by starting conversations about gender-based violence, because I believe that some people don't even know what GBV is.
Exactly.
We hear about these high stats in South Africa and in Africa as a whole, but some people don't really understand what is it.
Beautiful. I mean,
so
you raise a very good point there, which is something we're working on, and I hope that we'll get through to it as soon as possible. We really want to get the data, want to extract the data from the government database, right? I mean, approve the data that they published there. But then not just extract it, we want to really get to understand how did they reach this number? How, I mean, what element came together? You know, how did they get to these numbers? Because we believe that if we understand whatever they put together, you know, what the explanation is of gender, we can demystify this whole concept. We'll be able to approach it from, you know, from piece by piece perspective. People say, oh, the case is hard. What case are we talking about? Are we talking about the case of gender-based violence in terms of physical abuse, or in terms of physical abuse and emotion? I mean, how did they reach the statistics? Because South Africa keeps ranking the highest in the world, and it seems as if, oh, you know, South Africa. But what's composing and what comprising of these statistics? I'm sure you get my point, you know, and we really need to see it when we understand this thing, and then we'll get on, oh, okay, fine. Actually, they're talking about this. There's nothing like emotional abuse in this conversation. Because I don't think that people really go to the police station and say, my boyfriend is abusing me emotionally. Why? You know, he just sees me, doesn't talk to me. Well, who does that? You get my point.
And that's, I mean, just before we go into emotional abuse, the UN and AU, African Union, released a really, well, it's a summary report about gender-based violence during the COVID times, which is accessible online. If you just type gender-based violence, African Union report COVID, you can find it. But majority of the cases, actually, what I understood from the report is that they are physical. So gender-based violence also includes girls who are not going to school, who end up getting pregnant, who end up getting married off. It includes female genital mutilation. So GBV, literally, it's a very, very blanket term that includes a lot of things.
You see, it's very important that we look at these things. And thank you, Coach Jonathan. Yeah, it's really a meaningful conversation. He was our guest last week, and we're looking forward to having him again, like again. He was our guest last week, and thank you for joining us again today. And we're having an interesting conversation again with Valerie, who obviously, as we see, we will be having again and again. I mean, she's engaging us so well, and we're enjoying this conversation. Thank you for joining us, Coach Jonathan. It's good to have you here again. You made a very important point there. I mean, it's really a broad topic of gender-based violence. You understand, and the issues that I raised there. If we look at it and bring it down to the South African perspective, right? You see that there are certain people that are unique to South Africa. There are certain people that are unique to the Tanzanians, to Nigeria, to Ghana. You know what I'm saying? Then they bring all this together. And so when we're approaching these things, we need to understand, we need to work with it from the level of priority and urgency that it reflects in the country. You understand? In South Africa, what is it? Physical abuse, no jokes. No jokes. Physical abuse ranks it, right? And there are other countries like South Sudan. I don't even know if it's happening in Tanzania, whatever. There are female genital mutilation that happening there, in early child marriage and what have you. As a part of North Nigerian, we need to approach it from this urgent background and then creating this awareness as well. Hopefully sooner or later, we'll be having partnerships with radio stations, to also, one thing I must say in South Africa, many radio stations are really, joining on this campaign. They're talking about it. It's now becoming more like a cliche, but I think that more than just talking, because I mean, I hear an ad on radio every time becomes normal, because it's something normal to me, you understand? So I think we need to begin to find ways where we make it a lot more unique, a lot more catchy, probably change these things from time to time, maybe 1 month run it and then run another for another month, and then after a fourth month, bring it back, something like that. Something that will, because if I get...
And how do we raise money, my friend? How are we raising money to get centers, to get the people trained to be able to create centers that actually take people who want to leave these situations?
Good.
I mean, this is the end goal. So I'm just jumping in with like, we need practical, like tangible ways that people can get to safe spaces. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what we need. Education is good. Of course we need awareness, but that's not enough to bring the numbers down. We need for these girls who are getting raped or they're getting pregnant, we need centers that give them information about birth control, about even options for abortion. Like, this is a very controversial topic, of course, but we need to give people more options for what they can do with their bodies. Sorry, I just jumped in there when you were speaking.
There is a very good point there, and it's all that has been on the top of the issues we're having, and some of the challenges we're encountering and we're trying to overcome. No doubt we are. We are working to overcome the issue of finance as well. Of all the campaigns we're running, all the projects we're running, these things require funds, no doubt. And thank you for for raising that. And it's very valid. We like I said, it ranks the top of our basic challenges. Funds. There are a lot of projects we want to run, but how do we finance them? Now, quickly, you actually said something. Another thing I just wanted to say is, more than these financial contributions, right? We believe that there are many organizations that have access to these things that we need, and if only they would just partner, understand, catch the idea, catch the vision, and work in partnership. That also works. Some people might not really have the money to give, but they have the resources to make these things happen. You understand? And so we're also encouraging those things. Like, we're talking about the radio station. I mean, you can ask a radio station to give you money to advertise on the radio, right? But you understand. But you can tell them, this is how it can work. How about you put this program on your show, on your radio? You understand.
Yeah.
So partnership is very important as well. Those things that goes off that off such angles, then require finance and running project. We run a project called the Noble Club. It's a community-based project. We are raising social workers, psychologists, and whatnot, dispatching them to schools across Africa, and they run this. This is require finance, right? You gotta these social workers. It's their profession. They might be volunteering, but somewhere they require some form of stipend, and these stipends might look little for one or two social worker, but when you're having that number of social workers across, I mean, then you need huge finance. And and then you very valid point there. I understand, and I believe you're saying that because right now you're currently working for an NGO. You know the work you're doing. You think like, man, this doesn't happen by me saying this doesn't happen. Just talking, it requires a lot of funds. And
yeah, but also I was just adding plus, but what you're doing is incredible, and I think having these conversations, of course, it's the foundation of all of this change. It's completely necessary. And I think what you're doing with this series is incredible, so.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we still have some time to go, and I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm just going to quickly, from what we've all been saying, we've talked about some strategies and so on and so forth. The issue of gender-based violence. Okay, no, let's move to gender inequality, right? Do you think, because if we talk about gender-based violence, we can say, oh, we go to educate people on the street and so on. But in most cases, gender inequality cases are always reflected in workspace, in spaces where this both gender come in with a mind of wanting to achieve a particular thing, and then one gender is saying, you know what, not you, you're not supposed to be here, I mean, so where there should be a mutual understanding, mutual commitment, mutual effort, and so on and so forth. Now, how do we penetrate the workspace and create such awareness in a workspace to actually enhance gender equality? Yeah, that's a question, Valerie.
Oh, for me, why are you giving me these fire questions? I mean, I think a lot of companies now, I would like to think, are becoming more aware. They're becoming more aware in terms of just the well-being in the office in general. I know a lot of more companies are working with psychologists. A lot more companies are working with professional like HR, external services. So I think there needs to be more, as you said, partnerships just with help, like just with well-being services for companies that people can go to, because sometimes in a company, even if you go to HR, you can be met with, again, resistance or with some sort of bias. So I think having external companies, these partnerships with external companies where the company is basically dedicated to diversity, to well-being, to mental wellness, supporting the team. I think that is really helpful. And yeah, at the end of the day, I like companies that this policy that everything is accessible to the public. So all salaries are accessible to the public, that there's a very clear hierarchy of structure that says like, this is how long you work for, these are the goals that you can reach. So I think transparency will help a lot in terms of just like gender inequality in the office, because sometimes you don't know that you're getting paid 20% less than your male counterpart. How do you know? So I think transparency and basically having external companies are the best things, so that companies can't hide.
Okay. Zizipo, I mean, I'm going to throw this question at you. Yeah, I'm going to put in a very tight space right now. If you have any problem after answering this question, let us know. We'll probably try and help you. You're working in a space, according to you, that you said is mainly dominated by men, right? And it's actually, let me not be controversial here, but that's why I'm throwing the button to you. You'll probably become the controversial one right now. So probably turn your name to the controversial people. Now, such a space where you're working is a space where people should look to, for example, and say, you know what, these are the defenders of our system, right? Therefore, we need to learn from them, right? We need to learn from them. But you are there, and you just realize now that, you know what, somebody's going to come from outside and report a case of gender inequality in an office where gender inequality is visible, right? It's being practiced. You understand? And then we're going to take up this case to go fight gender inequality outside. When we are you know, we have that issue in the house. So we've not been able to put our house in order, but we're going out there. And this is an institution that should protect and defend the people, right? How do you think we can educate the South African police service, right? And that's what I'm putting in a very controversial position. You are going to teach us how to.
Why me?
How do you think we can educate the South African police service, partner with them or collaborate with whatever it is that will actually enhance gender equality in the system? Right? We understand that, you know, when this recruitment is going on, we understand that men, I mean, I don't know how it is right now, but there was a time where we knew that more male usually applied for the police and the, you know, the whatever paramilitary organization than female did. We understand right now. However, there's always a way we can strike the balance. How do we educate these SAPS or partner collaborators?
Okay, I just hope my commanders are not listening to this.
No, if they're listening, you better get a promotion.
South African police service have been criticized about unprofessionalism and also not dealing well with gender inequality and gender-based violence. We are in this mess that we're at because the community is kind of blaming them for not doing what they're supposed to. I think it goes back to an individual understanding the gender-based violence, the gender inequality, because honestly, on the subs, there's just no training that specifically deals with that. I'll be lying if I'm saying that there is a training that deals with that. It's just like any other department where we address gender inequality and GBV as a crime. It's just like any other crime. The thing is, one thing I always say to my colleagues is that when you're dealing with a case, you should be passionate about it. You should know what you want to achieve from it. So if you are just a normal human being, I'm like, okay, no, SA has just this GBV stakes that is so high. There's nothing that you're going to do if you're going to go with that attitude. If your attitude is to, you know what, in as much as majority of my colleagues are not doing what they're supposed to, I'm going to be the different one. I'm going to set a clear standard, a new one that people will follow, because professionalism, it's taught everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in every department. You should do whatever that you're doing according to whatever protocols that are there. Unfortunately, in the subs, we don't really have specific protocols or specific procedures on how to deal with GBV and gender inequality. It's only those that have more experience in the industry, and those that have actually experienced it or have people that are close to them that have expressed it. So that's the issue that we have, and our ministers and commissioners are trying to actually like educate people on the GBV and the gender inequality. Those trainings are still going to come, but as for now, they're not there. I'm always excited when I have a case of GBV. I don't like handle cases on my own because I'm still very young. I work with people, I can't handle it. So whenever there's a GBV case, always the end, they know very well that it excites me because I'm looking for those small things that we're always criticized for. So now it's an individual thing. It's how you feel about the case. It's what you want to achieve about the case. It's no longer about the department thing. So we cannot really departmentalize it. It's an individual.
Good cop, good cop, good cop, good cop, good cop. All right, thank you. So, I mean, from what you just said, it's clear that, you know, there is still some level of education that we can also provide, you know, to the SAPS, you know?
Yeah.
Provide some level of education to them, because they have this, I don't want to say persona right there, but they have this view from the public, oh, these guys, they're perfect, they know what they're doing. And so when they misbehave, like you said, when they're not able to tackle the case of gender, we are all disappointed because we expected so much from them. This is expectation that we have from the South African police department. And I'm saying that because, I mean, it's not just South Africa alone, from the police force across the world. This is an expectation that people have from them, right? That, you know, they're there. And you're just saying now that sometimes there are no specific training for some of these things. There are general training, you know, and so on. But we're talking about case of GBV or gender inequality within a department. No, these trainings are not there as well, which is in a way not right, because the more knowledge you have of something, the better equipped you are, to tackle that thing. And here you are, we're having this conversation, and you've been here with us for quite some time, and quite a long time, having these conversations with us. And it arises a lot of emotion in you that should you, like you said, have a case of gender-based violence on your desk, you're able to look at it and you say, you know what, we've talked about this 2 weeks ago, and this is nonsense. I'm not taking it. And then, you're putting in your best to ensure that, such perpetrators don't get caught free. Good. That's the form of education there. How do we extend it? It's very important that we thank you for opening that. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Another thing that I just want to add, at work, we don't really work to arrest people. The first thing that we do is try to solve a problem as civilians. A gender-based violence thing, it's not just any other crime like murder, like capable homicide, or any other crime that you can mention. It happens with people that know each other. It happens within the family, within the society. So the first thing that cops will try to do is to actually try to stabilize the situation. If there's a forgiveness that can happen at that point, they will try to do that. But for somebody who have experienced gender-based violence, you say, no, this one, it can't be solved. And you cannot be able to articulate or to be able to see or identify, but this case will not be solved by just sorry, I apologize or whatever, if you've never been in that situation. So that's my advantage. To me, gender-based violence is not just a thing. I have been a victim, so I know how to deal with it. And I know where sport is not going to work.
Good cop again. Good cop again. Well done. Jonathan, Coach Jonathan is saying, great work, Azizipo. Great work. Good cop. And we need more people like you. We need more of you there in the SAP, to actually understand how these things work. And then, I mean, there's more conversation that we'll actually be picking and seeing. At the beginning of this whole campaign, which we're planning to reach out to the SAPS and also bring them on board to tell us how they deal with these cases as well. And from what you're saying now, I think there's need for us to really reach out to the SAPS and say, we want one of you there. Come tell us what's happening. Like, talk to us. So that's beautiful. And I've been enjoying this conversation. It's just 3 minutes to the end of this conversation. I would just want to quickly throw the baton to you again, Valerie, to give us your closing statement. I mean, from all we have said, there probably are things you really wanted to say that maybe the question didn't throw you to that end. Now, tell us, what are your closing remarks? What are your closing statements? What are the things that you so desire to say and we have not given the opportunity to say?
I mean, I think I said most of the things I wanted to say, but I just want to reiterate on support, and I think we need to open communication within our communities, within our own networks. Sometimes just having conversations with people and, asking them questions. Some of our friends are in emotionally abusive relationships, and just to make sure that emotional abuse does not turn into physical abuse, making sure that your loved ones know that they have a safe space to come to, that they can talk to you, that even if they can't talk to you, they have a professional that they have access to. A lot of our families and a lot of our cultures really treat these things with taboo, and these things are family secrets and they're hidden and whatnot. But just to bring these things onto the surface and to challenge. It's difficult to challenge our parents. It's difficult to challenge elders in the family, but I think we are the generation that challenges. We must challenge them, for things that they've been accepting for years, And it is my hope that we continue helping, do what we can, continue helping people like I love Stella Nyanzi, the Ugandan feminist who is outspoken and who does great work with raising awareness. There are organizations like the OSISA, the Open Society Initiative in Southern Africa, who I've worked with as well, and they run a women human rights campaign once every year. So it's just to know, I mean, everybody has their limitations and their capacity. Everyone should stay safe, try and stay safe, and try and raise awareness and try and have these conversations instead of just talking about, I don't know, reality TV. Let's invite friends over, even if you're having a drink, let's talk about these things. Let's not make these things awkward or difficult to talk about. Let's bring these conversations over the bar counter and over the kitchen table on a queue in the line. Like, let's make these conversations comfortable and open so that more people can be able to, you know, speak out. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And before I throw it back again to Zizipo, I just wanted to, you know, to extend more on what you said and maybe try and rephrase it. You know, I think that there was a time, you know, from, you know, reading and getting to understand. I always thought, you know, the generation of our fathers didn't do well. They didn't this and what and so on. But, you know, faced with the opportunities, the challenges, and the environment that they were faced with, we wouldn't completely, you know, say that they didn't really do well, right? I mean, they did their best, and we have more opportunities, we have more resources, and so we are building on the foundation that they have laid. And the truth is, when it's time for our children as well, they're going to do much more than we have done. And at a point, they might also be looking at us like, we probably think we are doing this right now. We are so super. They'll be looking at us like, guys, did you really live in that era? You know, that's how it is. That's how it evolves. So I think more than just challenging the status quo, challenging our parents and what it is, I think it's more or less educating them. It's more or less, you know, having these conversations with them, you know.
Of course.
It doesn't really need, like Zipo said earlier, it doesn't need to be whose voice is loudest in the room. You know, it's just this, you know, this exposure, explaining how you feel about it.
And don't misunderstand me. When I say challenge, I don't mean go and start rioting at home. No. Well, it is having the conversation.
I got what you're saying. I did get it completely. So everyone listening, in case you misquoted her, that's it. She doesn't mean, you know, she doesn't mean just go out there and start throwing punches and saying, hey, we're not papa, what have you. And so that's it. I just think, I think we should educate them and so on. We're talking about educating people. It doesn't really need to go to school all the time. We go do this at schools, but more importantly, it is even in places of worship where we have our parents, right? In marketplaces, in the shops. How do we get Pick and Pay, ShopRite, Spy, and whatnot to get involved in this and put it out there? When our parents go shop, they get to understand. It probably be a visual representation or probably on the screen where they see all the time. I mean, how do we get this? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, we need to educate them to understand this, because you're gonna go home and tell mama, you know, this is gender. They will tell you, no, this is not abuse. I mean, this is what we know. You know, and not many of them are. That's
what we're used to.
Exactly, not all of them are as educated as others. You know, they all have their different level of education, and so when you're telling one and they understand, it's more difficult for another to understand, and then you're wondering, but look at you, see this person, you know. So, guys, education is, like you said, education is not just what happens within the four walls of the classroom, on the streets, you know, and every corner. And I think I will be rounding up this. Zizipo, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, just to add one thing. I had this conversation earlier today with my friends, that it's not only about educating people. Some people do know that they're in abusive relationships, abusive marriages, but they just don't know how to get out. So one of my friends said that maybe we should change the conversation, and it shouldn't be about them getting out of there. We should actually give them give them the support and show them that it is actually livable outside. You can actually be able to live outside it. Don't force them to actually get out now, because it's not going to be possible. There's no one who's just going to live a 20 years marriage just because she's in an abusive relationship. She's not gonna be like, she's not just gonna go out because you are telling her to go out. Give her, like, show her how she's gonna, like, actually go out. How is she gonna be able to live without this person? Because most of the time, the victims of gender-based violence are depending on their perpetrators. So it's not really gonna be easy. It's high time that we support them in any way that we can. I'm not saying that collect the whole community and support it. Your 200 rand, your 500 rand, your 50 rand can go a long way to somebody who's depending to a perpetrator. So it's those small actions that we're doing to other females. Now it goes back to a female to female thing. We shouldn't be so eager and so fast to judge each other. Instead, we should be the one who are sitting down together and be like, what's the problem? Okay, I'm in this relationship because I can't really, like, finance myself. I'm there for financial purposes, and if I'm not there, I will not be able to leave. So let's just try to support each other and not really force people to get out of their relationships. Let's teach them how to get out and also show them that it is possible to live out of that toxic relationship.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree. So if I have to summarize what you said in 3 words, you say more than just educating them, we must empower them and expose them, right? That's basically
Yeah.
it. So we empower them and then we expose them to the outside. We'll be like, hey guys, well, don't you like what you see out there? You know, and then we then leave the decision for them to make. You know, that's a very beautiful way to get it out there. And yeah, so guys, I want to say thank you very much for your time. Not to forget that we also have planning very close to our global youth conference. I'm sure I probably have seen 1 or 2 ads on that, Valerie. I'll probably communicate more to you. We're having our global youth conference on the 20th and 21st of August 2021. Like as the name implies, it's a global youth conference. So if there's any one young person that you know, bring them on board. It's very important. The theme of the conversation is optimum. We're trying to see how we can pull resources, pull capital to this, you know, to see how we can transform Africa's economy, you know, drive it up. It's very important. So we're bringing experts from different sectors of the economy, and there, and that's in that conference we'll be having investors there. We'll be having whatever, you know, potential partners there, and what people are out there to really fish, and people are out there, yeah, both to fish for investors and also to fish for businesses that they want to invest in. You understand? And also to educate. So we're having it's really going to be an amazing conference. So guys, registration has opened today, and as far as I see, the registration is really moving very fast. I don't want to let you know, I don't want to expose the figure. I think part of the figure is on our website though, that actually we're getting. So if you don't register first, you might not, you might have to join on Facebook, which is not a bad thing though. So guys, yeah, I mean, just plan for it and please expose it. Let everyone know it's a global conference, and that's why we actually are doing it on Facebook, where you know there's no limits to how many people can join as well. It's a Zoom conference, no doubt, right? But we're going live on Facebook so that everyone can participate. We don't want to say, oh, we've reached the limit on Zoom. Here, guys, we'll call you tomorrow. You can actually connect on Zoom. So please reach out to everyone. Talk so much about it, and you at the end of the day will thank me for inviting me to that conference. So thank you guys. It's been an amazing one. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you all again. I hope I'll see you next week. And Valerie, please keep your doors open. I'll keep knocking on it because I will be having you again some other time. Thank you very much for your time, guys. It's been an amazing one.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye, everyone.
Good night. Bye.